Welcome to Mission Evolution Radio Show with Gwilda Wiyaka, bringing together today's leading experts to uncover ever-deepening spiritual truths and the latest scientific developments in support of the evolution of humankind. For more information on Mission Evolution Radio with Gwilda Wiyaka, visit www.missionevolution.org. And now, here's the host of Mission Evolution, Miss Gwilda Wiyaka.
Hello. Thanks for joining us on Mission Evolution. We're coming to you on X-Zone TV and Simul TV from our broadcast studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada. This hour, we'll explore the concept of functional coffee, where Eastern and Western medicine meet. We all know what coffee is. It's near and dear to the hearts of people all over the world. Some reports say it's good for you, while others say it's bad. Nonetheless, we consume it in copious amounts worldwide. But what does coffee have to do with bringing Eastern and Western medicine together? And what, oh what, is functional coffee? With us this hour to unravel this mystery is Dr. Christopher Winslow. Dr. Winslow earned a BA in chemistry from the State University of New York at Buffalo, followed by a Master's of Science in Chemistry from Rensselaer Polytech Institute and a PhD in Synthetic Organic Chemistry from Texas Christian University. He worked in the pharmaceutical industry for over 18 years in research, development, and manufacturing, leading divisions in both organic and biologic chemistry. Dr. Winslow joined Liberman Naturals in 2014. He's always had a keen interest in the incorporation of Eastern and Western styles of medicine and enjoys expanding his knowledge and understanding of how they both work and how the body works to help others live a better life. His website, beautifulmindcoffee.ca. Dr. Winslow, thanks for joining us on Mission Evolution.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me.
You know, you have, I would have to say, a very impressive background in chemistry. How did you first become interested in it?
Well, that long story. It kind of started with my father. When I was going to primary and secondary school, I wasn't really that big into really attending school. I enjoyed nature a lot, and I didn't get along too well at school. And my senior year, my father he was a Depression era baby and had grown up, and to him, education was extremely important. So he sat down with me and said, well, what are you going to do? And I just thought, well, I'll take a year off and work at a gas station and go out to nature and enjoy myself. And he was absolutely not. That's not going to happen. What are you able to do? I thought, okay, I'm somewhat good in math. I said, okay, well, then just go to a tech school, go to college, get a degree as an electrician and move forward. I got to I got to the college, and all of a sudden, for some reason, everything opened up for me. I think part of it was just at school, at secondary school, you were required to be there. University, they didn't care, just pay the bill. And being that I was paying the bill, it really worked for me. So I then started working on that, kind of stumbled into chemistry, found it was, I just really understood it much better than most. Couldn't really explain why, but that started me on my career. Then finished, I kind of wandered through a couple of different schools to get my bachelor's, but then in the end, I had found I really enjoyed not only just chemistry, but specifically the organic chemistry. Stumbled into the right professor. He gave me a fantastic letter to one of the people who had done a doctoral study with him at one of the major pharmaceutical companies. And that just kind of built the career, established it, and went on from there. Just worked at one of the major pharmaceutical companies. At the time, it was called Ciba-Geigy. Now it's known as Novartis. Worked there for a couple of years with a bachelor's degree, and just decided I wanted to continue. Went on, got a master's, the PhD, and then continued on in chemistry.
How much do you think your love of nature kind of made chemistry make sense to you?
Well, my love of nature when I was young was very, it was focused more on watching birds and streams and how everything worked together. So it was, I enjoyed that much more than trying to sit down and read a book. Then when I got to chemistry, all of a sudden I discovered, oh wait, there's something similar here, and trying to discover and build and develop things. And when you're looking at the different branches of chemistry, at the time, really, there were four major focuses in chemistry. You had analytical, physical, inorganic, and organic. And organic chemistry, what I found it to be, it's a bit more of an art than the other three, and that art had a similar foundation to what I would see in nature. Building a molecule and thinking, okay, well, how did plants do that? How is this established? What is photosynthesis? What happens in those aspects and things like that. So there was a connection there. But what was really interesting is I had really enjoyed nature and stepped away from academics very young. But then when I started to get better in the academic side and started working in science, for a number of years, I kind of stepped away from nature. I was going to university. I was just too busy. I was working a couple of jobs and school, and that filled up my entire time. And then once I got my jobs, the jobs were located, either just outside of New York City, was the first one, and then went down to school in Texas, the Texas Fort Worth area, and then went to work in Birmingham, Alabama. And in Birmingham, there was a bit more nature, but I was still living in right next to a city of about 3 million people. So
Yeah, there you have it. Makes it a little difficult to watch the fish and the birds.
so nature was kind of stepped aside. But then as time moved on, and I actually, when I got my last position in chemistry, it was out here. I'm located in Prince Edward Island, Canada. And that was, it was kind of one of those things that allowed me and forced me to get back to nature, because now I was in much more of a rural area. The largest city here on Prince Edward Island is 35,000, and the beauty on this island is really the nature. And
exactly.
so when I got here, I started to get back into the nature side and really enjoying it again.
So tell us a little about your background in pharmaceuticals. You worked in the pharmaceutical industry, yes?
Yeah, and there I was. When I started there, I was in the research development area, and in research, you had a variety of different branches. In the very beginning, in the pharma, you have the medicinal people, and what they're doing is trying to discover the active molecule that does whatever you're looking for. If you're looking for a cancer drug, something that would kill cancer cells quickly. Yeah, and so the idea of a chemist in that area, the medicinal chemist would be working closely with a biologist. They would keep just producing out large amounts of small molecules, and test them to see if they were active. Now, once they found something that was active, then they needed to produce it on initially for phase 1 clinical trials at a couple of gram scale, all the way up to hundreds or thousands of kilos if you get all the way to production. So I was the person that was in between, where after the medicinal chemist discovered it, I was the one who would then take the project and scale it to initially gram scale, and then all the way up to hundreds or thousands of kilos. And that was, for me, it was very interesting, because I was solving a number of problems. I wasn't as much in the biological side, but I had to understand the biological side a little bit for the molecule. But a lot of what I had to do was actually understand really the synthetic part, the building of the initial molecule and the logistics of putting all that together.
Which brings me to my next question. How much of our current day pharmaceuticals originated as natural ingredients, herbs and such?
Well, a lot of the foundational molecules were originally discovered in nature because nature was able to develop these complex molecules that if you were just looking at how would this interact with the body, it would be difficult for just a chemist to build. So what happened is we this chemists, well, people would find active ingredient. Well, they would find uh, natural plants or products that they could work with. Now, let me back that up a little bit. I can give you a better story or subject or point on the idea. When I was at Texas Christian University, the laboratory right next to me, the laboratory I was working in, we just focused on synthetic organic. We made the molecule, but the laboratory next to me was Professor Reinecke. I think it was Reinecke. He was very unique in the field of organic chemistry because what he did is he worked. There were three groups that worked in his system. The first group was this setup of people that would travel through South America, and they would meet with indigenous tribes, the medicinal men within the indigenous tribes, and they would talk to them about, okay, if you had this kind of illness, let's say it met the symptoms of malaria, what kind of natural products would you collect to give to your patients? And then they would identify those plants, and particularly if it was one particular plant, like a type of tree bark or something like that, they would really key in on that. And then they would collect that bark, and that group would then ship this bark to this professor, Reinecke, who was at TCU, and his group would then isolate the individual molecules in this bark, and then they would collect a lot of these complex molecules. They would collect a whole series of them, and then they would take those and they would ship them to a third group at the University of Rochester in New York, the medical school there. And there was a third group there where they would focus on, okay, well, we know this is for malaria. We would identify specific pathogens or something like that if we put this molecule in, it would break a pathway or disrupt the system in some way. And we'll take those, we'll test all of the molecules you've collected, identify which one is really the most active or active, and then they would ship it back to the Professor Reinecke at TCU, who would do a better job of identifying it and then be able to synthesize it. Now, then what happens is, okay, now you have this molecule that was identified from a natural product, but in the pharmaceutical world, we normally like to then play with that a little bit or change it, because many times, okay, you have this really nice organic molecule, but you have a problem if you want to establish it as a capsule. It needs to, then you have to formulate it so that it can go through the stomach and actually enter the body.
Well, we're going to have to pick up on the
Sure.
pathways from organic to inorganic on the other side of a station break. Dr. Winslow and I will return shortly, so don't you go away. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org.
From the Canada-US border in the southern region of Niagara, traveling north in Ontario's Golden Horseshoe, then east and west of the Greater Toronto Area, there is growing awareness and excitement as more and more people are starting their day with Beautiful Mind Coffee, the delicious healthy coffee that your brain will love. Made with ethically sourced 100% Arabica coffee, Beautiful Mind Coffee is roasted and ground in small batches to ensure each bag contains a wonderful full-bodied artisan coffee. Scientifically formulated, Beautiful Mind Coffee is the only coffee blend that contains 3 herbal ingredients found to aid in boosting your daily mental clarity and focus. Maca root powder, green tea extract and American ginseng have been selected for their ability to support good brain health. Taking care of your brain's health now can help delay or prevent the onset of cognitive dysfunction, including dementia, Alzheimer's, and more general memory loss as you get older just by enjoying the delicious flavor of our roasted coffee and herbal ingredients found exclusively in Beautiful Mind Coffee. Beautiful Mind Coffee is now available at Amazon.ca and soon to be available in selected locations near you. In Hamilton, Ontario, Beautiful Mind Coffee is now available at Livelong Wellness Clinic, located at 189 Hewson Street South. Beautiful Mind Coffee can be ordered by telephone by calling 416-436-3675 or 905-536-2450. Why have a good cup of coffee when you can have a great cup of Beautiful Mind Coffee that's good for your brain? For more information on Beautiful Mind Coffee, visit us online at www.beautifulmindcoffee.ca.
Hello again. This is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org. With us this hour discussing the transfer from herbs into pharmaceuticals is Dr. Christopher Winslow. His website, beautifulmindcoffee.ca. Dr. Winslow, we were talking about the transition from finding what works in an herb from indigenous peoples to synthesizing it into a pharmaceutical, and the reason we would do that. Now, I know plants produce different amounts of things every year, every season is different. Was it a matter of looking for consistency as well?
Well, that would be a different approach. Like the approach I was talking about earlier would be would be where you've identified a specific molecule from a plant that is that you can then work as an active ingredient. And then if you were going to take that and hand it over to the medicinal chemist, then the medicinal chemist would they take the basic framework and alter some of the side chains or things like that to improve either solubility or half-life or those aspects, or make it slightly more active, that it could fit within the enzyme sites a little better. But that's one concept. Now, the other concept, like I remember when I went and started working for Ciba-Geigy, one of the projects I took on, it was a project for Alzheimer's, and they had identified that galantamine was a viable product that might be a fantastic active ingredient, and you could find this galantamine from a plant. I don't remember what plant it was, but it was a plant in China, and so they were shipping. What they had done is they shipped a small quantity of this material and said, "Okay, I need you to purify it, to isolate it, crystallize it multiple times, and obtain the pure product." And there, the goal was, yes, they were going to use specifically what the plant produced. Now, at that time, I had developed a small purification process, but I had developed that purification process with just one collection of this plant material, and that collection. Then, as we began to evaluate, how useful was the process that I had developed, we found it wasn't as useful as we thought, because said, I wish I had remembered exactly what plant it was, but apparently they collected this plant all year, and they found that this active ingredient was different at obviously different times of the year. So in the fall, it would be, 1%. In the spring, it was a different percentage, and you had to use varying techniques to actually isolate the compounds. And also, when you're isolating these compounds, you're kind of, it's a process where input output, you have expectations. So if you're trying to plan, okay, how do I need 1,000 kilos of this material? How much input do I need? And that can be a big change. So that's where I did this, really begin to understand and discover, these plants, they can produce very, very different quantities, and it doesn't have to just depend upon season. It's also, was there a drought that season? Did that stress the plant in a different way? And all, it really made sense, but I hadn't really thought about it previously. But that's where I began to develop and work with natural products, but still really focused in the chemistry side.
Well, you made a bit of a quantum leap jumping from chemistry and pharmaceuticals to natural products. What prompted you to move in that direction?
Well, a big part of that was actually joining Lieberman Naturals. Now, I had worked on a number of projects. I said doing plant isolation and purification, and for a little while, I actually worked in fermentation, where we were taking fungal material and things like that, growing in liquids, and then developing molecules and isolating it. So I'd done that, but all of that was really focused on the chemistry side and what you could do for pharmaceuticals. And as I did that and work in the pharmaceutical industry, what had happened is I worked on a lot of projects, but I was getting a little, I really enjoyed working in the lab and working with my hands and doing that. But as time progressed, you have a PhD chemist. I don't expect you to be standing in front of a hood, because it just doesn't make economic sense for them to do that. So they started moving me more to management or development or fermentation or those other projects. And I was beginning to get bored with that, because I really wanted to get back to something, the chemistry, which had really interested me. So that's what caused me to step aside from the pharmaceutical industry. And then I went out and I started consulting and started working with small companies and things like that, trying to help them and develop primarily in the chemical or pharmaceutical industry. And when I was doing that, Lieberman Naturals, it had been initially started by two professors at McMaster's University, a professor and an associate professor. The professor, Dr. Michel Rathbone, you had met him. He was a neurologist at McMaster's University, and the associate professor was Dr. Shishui Zhang, who was a neurobiologist working in his laboratory. Now, the two of them, when they met, Dr. Rathbone, he was a neurologist trained in Western style medicine, but he always had an interest in natural products, and personally used a number of them to improve his health. And Dr. Zhang, she was originally from China, had gotten her medical degree in China, and was trained in both Western and Eastern style medicine. And then went and got a PhD in neurobiology in Germany in the Western side, but really still held on a lot to the Eastern style of medicine. Now, when she got to McMaster, she had arrived there with this traditional, what would be considered a traditional Chinese medicine, herbal medicine. But at that time, it was really only the formulation was only about 50 years old. So normally when you think of them, they're hundreds or thousands of years old. This was a newer formulation, and she had brought it, and it was very interesting because it showed some very good healing characteristics. So Dr. Zhang and Dr. Rathbone began to investigate this natural product new herbal formulation for the treatment in spinal cord injuries. Now, it didn't heal spinal cord injuries, but the focus was that it improved healing or sped healing. And with spinal cord injuries, one of the big problems is if you don't begin healing quickly, it could be the difference between not being able to move your arms and legs to just not being able to move your legs, or issues like that. So they began to develop this product, and it really looked great in the laboratory and on small scale testing. And they took that and decided, okay, well, it looks great in the lab. Let's make a business out of this. And they had a friend who had also worked in natural products, and they decided to move that the development of that business to Prince Edward Island, because Prince Edward Island, we had the natural products research center here, and a number of programs put together to help with natural product development.
So am I to understand this thing that they were building, was all natural products? It wasn't synthesized or chemical
Yeah,
products at
it
all?
was entirely focused on natural products. Now, this would have been a higher level natural product, so it would have been almost like a pharmaceutical, because they would have had to go through phase 3 clinical trials and all of those aspects, and do, so that would have involved the full scale up. And that's kind of where, when they were looking for somebody to work with, that's where I run into them, and they said, "Oh yeah, you're perfect. We'll hire you." I just was hired as a contract employee to kind of put their lab together and kind of manage the project and get them up and going. Well, we got up, we started that project, and we got, I don't know, maybe a year into that project. Things were, like I said, the science side looked really good, but the issue was the formulation of this product was actually controlled by a group in China, and that group in China decided they didn't want to release the formula outside of China, and because of that, we couldn't establish regulatory, we couldn't meet regulatory rules, so we had to drop the project. Now, at that time, that's where I was working with them, and like I said, they brought me in for the pharma side, but I began to see more of the natural product side, and they were just, the two of them were just amazing human beings, great people to work with, very intelligent, wonderful just to sit down and chat with and learn things about.
So what benefits have you found from the natural products versus the chemicalized ones, the ones that have been synthesized?
Well, with the synthesized or the chemical products, those are more focused on like a Western style medicinal practice, because it's more, when you're looking at that and you're synthesizing a molecule, what you're doing is you're isolating one single molecule and saying, okay, this is what I'm going to use for the treatment of breast cancer. And when you're looking at traditional Chinese medicine or Eastern style medicine, it's more of a broad holistic approach. It's not so much that, I'm going to cut it right down to the simplest equation. It's, no, we're going to look at the whole body, the whole, your actions, what you do, how you live your life, and a variety of other things. So you're not going with that single molecule. Now, both in the Western style, with that idea of I'm cutting everything right down to its basic core, that's more of the idea that I need to understand each part, each really detailed part of the problem in order to get to that really basic core. And the more I worked in chemistry, the more I discovered, we Western science, we do know quite a bit, but we don't know as much as we actually thought we knew. And because there are some details that we just can't get to the basis of understanding, the human body. Every second, the human body, there's there's millions, probably billions of interactions occurring. So you put a molecule in there. All right, great. Maybe it kills a certain cancer cell, or maybe it doesn't. Maybe the body changes it in between. But what else does it do? With the Eastern medicine, it was much more of a, we don't really have to judge everything right down to the basis. What we'll do is it's longer term studies and analysis of, okay, we try a variety of these molecules. For example, I said the natural herbal concoction that we were looking at originally, it was a mixture of 15 different herbs, and you put 15 different herbs. Now you have billions of molecules in there, and as far as active ingredients go, I'm sure thousands of varying active ingredients. So trying to get a full understanding of exactly what that is, you really can't from a Western side, and the Eastern side kind of recognize that and says, well, we're not going to try to. What we're going to try to do is kind of look more of putting this together. What do we see, and longer term evaluation aspects.
Nice. Well, it is, again, time for another station break. On the other side, I'd like to get into what are we seeing as you see side effects in drugs. Is there less in the herbs than there is in the synthesized, or not? So Dr. Winslow and I will be right back to continue this important discussion. So stay right there. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org.
So I was watching the X Zone TV channel last night when I was abducted by aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. simultv.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a simultv.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she'd come from the hereafter to tell me about simultv.com. She even spelled it out for me.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
simultv.com.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
simultv.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about simultv.com. simultv.com.
Hi there. This is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org. Our guest this hour is Dr. Christopher Winslow. His website, beautifulmindcoffee.ca. Dr. Winslow, we were talking about the difference between a synthesized medicine and the herbal medicines. Did you find that the closer they came from nature, the less side effects there were, or not so much?
Well, as far as side effect aspects, it would depend. You can have high concentrations of specific things like green tea and that can be problematic, and you can have liver issues or things like that if you take significant quantities. There's a variety of other natural products also that do that. But when you're comparing like a pharmaceutical, an individual molecule, there was a medical doctor I was watching a presentation that he was talking about, because he had focused on both Eastern and Western medicine. And he said, well, one of the big complaints about traditional Chinese medicine is the idea that, oh, it's dangerous, and you take it and it can harm you, or it can kill you. And he said, well, let's hold on a second. A lot of these natural products that we're looking at, as far as their LD 50, the concentration that would kill 50% of the population, is much, much lower in most of these natural products. So they do tend to be much less toxic. But also the other aspects too are, a lot of these natural products can be taken in significant quantities without any effects. Many of them, for example, maca. Maca is considered a superfood. Now, the viable amounts of maca to work with are anywhere between 1 to 10 grams. You do more than 10 grams, it's not going to do much for. It's not as beneficial for you on the health side, but it doesn't give you any extra benefit. But it won't harm. Well, I'm sure if you took kilos of it, it would harm you. But yeah, a lot of these natural products you can take in large quantities, and they are much safer. Now, but also it's the other aspect to look at that too is, okay, with the pharmaceuticals, you're getting a very high concentration in a small dose, where natural products you're usually getting a smaller concentration. And
is there I'm asking you to theorize here, but is there a possibility that nature knew what it was doing when it grew the herbs to start out with, and there's checks and balances that are incorporated into it?
Well, that is a very interesting question. Like, for example, when I'm thinking of coffee, okay, caffeine. It's the reason most people drink coffee, is for the caffeine. And as they began to study and evaluate, well, why did the coffee bean produce caffeine? And what they come up with is two aspects, but one of the major ones is it's a pesticide. It keeps pests away. And when you're looking at plants, plants, they're stuck. They are not moving anywhere, and they're kind of have to deal with what nature is going to bring them. And so they have to develop chemicals, really, they can do a variety of different things. You can develop thorns to try to keep pests and things like that away, or you'll develop chemicals to try to keep fungus and all of those things. But caffeine, it was developed as a pesticide to keep some pests away. But the other aspect too is some of the caffeine would be found in the nectar of the coffee flower, and there were other certain animals that would then find that very favorable and enjoyable.
So
Now
we have some crazy bees going around there, right?
Yeah.
So now you're telling me that it was a pesticide, but it was a pesticide that was naturally developed by the plant rather than
the
one that
plant.
was Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And plants do this all the time. They develop different chemicals and things like that to try to fight and battle their way in nature, because it's evolution. They're constantly battling one thing or another thing for survival. When I think of what is the milkweed? It would have caterpillars or something climbing up it and beginning to eat it, and all of a sudden the milkweed would release the milk, and the milk was this sticky, gooey, poisonous material that was made just to fend to stop the caterpillars from eating it. So plants do these things. And that is a really amazing thing. What makes a plant evolve in this way and develop these things? And that is that's much higher pay grade than me.
So how does the natural pesticide of caffeine, how do we get to where it gives us energy instead of killing us?
For us, it's caffeine's interesting because it doesn't really stimulate the body. What it does is it in the brain, it blocks a certain molecule. The longer you're awake, there's a certain molecule. I believe it's called adenine. It starts with an A. I can't remember the exact name of it, but it builds up in the brain. And as you the longer you're awake, the more it builds up in the brain. And the idea is this molecule, then it would attach to certain sites within the brain, which would then stimulate this rest, this desire for rest and relaxation. Caffeine is very similar to that molecule and actually coordinates and attaches to the active sites in the brain, blocking this molecule from attaching to the brain. And because of that, it prevents your body from beginning to feel tired. But that's where, with caffeine, when, as you know, you could sit and drink 5 cups of coffee and you'll feel pretty good for multiple hours. But then once those multiple hours are done, you all of a sudden have a crash and want to go to sleep. That's because the caffeine that was coordinated to the active sites is now degrading, going away, and all of a sudden you have large amounts of that molecule that wants to make you tired and begins to hit hard.
So the caffeine doesn't actually give us energy. It just prevents us from responding in such a way that we want to go to sleep from the natural processes in our brain.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's what
Okay.
allows you to kind of stay awake and your mind to be active, and that because with this. Well, I won't get much deeper in it because I'm a chemist. I'm not a medical doctor.
Please, be gentle.
Well, yeah, I'm sure Dr. Rathbone, the neurologist, is saying, you got that part wrong. You got that little part wrong. But overall, I think I got it pretty well.
I think you came pretty close, but then it's beyond my pay grade as well.
Yeah.
So if the caffeine prevents the chemical that hits our brain that makes us feel tired, what's if you overdo it and you feel really stimulated and nervous? What causes that?
I'm not sure. That would be a Dr. Rathbone question.
Okay, I'll pick on him for that one then. So, what benefits do you find in natural products that really pushed you in that direction versus the chemical?
Well, the natural products really struck me as very interesting in that there's so much not known or not fully understood on the subject, but there's thousands of years of research. So I thought, wow, that is amazing. Now, I was raised in in the Western science, and with that, you just you're working on the idea that we want to solve that problem. I want to figure that out. I want to look at that and get a better idea and break it down into its individual pieces. So because of that, that's probably what was a key part that spurred me on. And that now Eastern medicine has given us so much of a foundational information of, okay, this herbal mixture or even this individual plant is wonderful for certain things. Rosemary, fantastic. It stimulates the brain and just seems to improve short-term memory. So there, the question is, okay, well, I guess we've seen that it was talked about for hundreds of years, and then they started doing testing over the last 50 years, and they're beginning to see, okay, well, anecdotally and even in small trials where they're observing it and seeing it. So now, okay, let's see, well, why does that happen and what does it happen? But it's also interesting in that I don't, when I look at it and I think of, okay, Western style medicine, I'm looking at things like, I don't want to break it down to its individual piece. I want to actually look at it and say, okay, well, if I take one individual active molecule out of rosemary, does it act the same? And I don't expect it to act entirely the same because there's probably another 5 or 10 active molecules in there, and there's a synergistic effect between all of them. So that's what, to me, what I'd really love to begin to study and look at. And that's an extremely complex problem, though, because once you get, you have one molecule, okay, one solution, two molecules, you start to get like four different solutions. Three, it's exponentially begins to blow up the possibilities. But that really intrigues me.
So you're adding a lot of variables to the
Oh, yeah.
situation. Yeah.
Yes.
Kind of hard to isolate. But on the other hand, if it's worked for thousands and thousands of years, do we really need to isolate it?
We don't really need to, other than, you run into some difficulties. For example, American ginseng. American ginseng is something that, it was discovered, it was identified as something that for global use, probably back in the, when was it? I believe it was back in the 1600s. There was some monks in Montreal who was looking at a book of natural products, and it was a Chinese book of natural products. Well, actually, I don't know that it was a Chinese book, but what he was looking at was Asian ginseng, and the leaves of Asian ginseng he had pointed out to one of the local chiefs for an indigenous society, and the chief was, you need to talk to these people because there's a similar leaf here growing in our region. I found that. Then they discovered American ginseng. American ginseng then really kind of kicked off, and the indigenous people had been using it for a long time, but then the Chinese found out about it, and they were very excited. It was something that they really wanted, and they started buying large quantities of it, and that kind of exploded the market, so that even in the 1700s, during the American Revolution, that was one of the major ways the United States actually was able to fund the revolution, was selling American ginseng to the Chinese. But by doing that and building the market, what happened is they used up all of the wild ginseng. So then they had to start growing some of the natural ginseng. But when growing the natural ginseng, obviously you had to grow it in very specific areas, and you just couldn't produce enough of it. So there is the idea of, wonderful idea, let's use natural products, but again, natural products only produce so much of a quantity. So is there a way that we can actually kind of incorporate not just growing it but producing it? But I don't want to move all of this into the Western side. For example, for me, what I'm trying to do is actually grow my own herbs and develop it learn how to grow these better, and maybe actually produce herbs that
they work.
They work. They would have more active ingredients or something like that.
It's time for us to take another station break. Please stay with us as Dr. Winslow and I continue to explore the benefits of herbal ingredients. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org.
From the Canada-US border in the southern region of Niagara, traveling north in Ontario's Golden Horseshoe, then east and west of the Greater Toronto Area, there is growing awareness and excitement as more and more people are starting their day with Beautiful Mind Coffee, the delicious healthy coffee that your brain will love. Made with ethically sourced 100% Arabica coffee, Beautiful Mind Coffee is roasted and ground in small batches to ensure each bag contains a wonderful full-bodied artisan coffee. Scientifically formulated, Beautiful Mind Coffee is the only coffee blend that contains 3 herbal ingredients found to aid in boosting your daily mental clarity and focus. Maca root powder, green tea extract, and American ginseng have been selected for their ability to support good brain health. Taking care of your brain's health now can help delay or prevent the onset of cognitive dysfunction, including dementia, Alzheimer's, and more general memory loss as you get older, just by enjoying the delicious flavor of our roasted coffee and herbal ingredients found exclusively in Beautiful Mind Coffee. Beautiful Mind Coffee is now available at Amazon.ca and soon to be available in selected locations near you. In Hamilton, Ontario, Beautiful Mind Coffee is now available at Livelong Wellness Clinic, located at 189 Hewson Street South. Beautiful Mind Coffee can be ordered by telephone by calling 416-436-3675 or 905-536-2450. Why have a good cup of coffee when you can have a great cup of Beautiful Mind Coffee that's good for your brain? For more information on Beautiful Mind Coffee, visit us online at www.beautifulmindcoffee.ca.
Welcome back. This is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org. This hour, our expert guest is Dr. Christopher Winslow. His website, beautifulmindcoffee.ca. Dr. Winslow, I would like to know now, we've talked about the Eastern and the Western, how are you incorporating the two styles of medicine in your current work?
Well, the main focus there is trying to understand the natural products and how they act and what they do. I've just begun really what I would call my study into Eastern medicine. Eastern medicine is so difficult, or not difficult, so different than Western medicine, and trying to understand the concepts and that we're beginning to build with. But the key that we're trying to do of mixing the Eastern and Western medicine with Beautiful Mind Coffee involves understanding these natural products, how they react specifically to the body. So when I'm looking at the different natural products, I will choose the natural products through peer-reviewed journal articles that are identified in Western type of medicine, but also try to as we build this, also identify, what Eastern medicine would look at with these natural products. Now, the original blend, we didn't spend as much time understanding the Eastern style of medicine for it, but the more
Let me back you up. The original blend for what?
The original blend of coffee here, the natural product. So I did look at a few things, like, for example, the American ginseng, very favored in China. And when they're looking at the different ginsengs, because the Asian, there's apparently 4 different types of ginseng. Well, there might even be more than that, but there's Asian, Russian, American, and
Siberian, maybe?
Korean. Well, Siberian. Well, I said Russian. It's Siberian. I believe it's Korean too, and each one is considered a different category. Like the Korean, I believe, is considered the hottest or the warmest, and so I guess that would be more on the yang side, and where the American ginseng is more on the yin side, and so. The idea was, let's try to start looking at the different natural products and how to combine them so that on the Western side, they have peer-reviewed journal articles that have clinical studies that show there's some type of neuroprotective characteristic or improves working memory or something like that. But also on the Eastern side, that these molecules, well, they're, first of all, are they known for helping the brain? But second of all, are they compatible with each other for the in Eastern medical studies? Now, like I said, we're just beginning that. I believe we did pretty good with this original bit on the Eastern medicine side. On the Western medicine side, I can tell you, I know we did very good. And on the taste side, we did excellent. But but that's a big project, something that needs to be continually evolved.
So let me back up a little bit here. You've developed a coffee beverage or a coffee. Okay. That was what you used for the carrier, and you've added herbs. And what was the goal?
The ultimate goal, I mean, with our company, remember before when I said I joined Lieberman Naturals originally as a contract employee to get their traditional Chinese medicine up and going. When that kind of fell apart on us, when the Chinese took away the natural product, we looked at, at first I figured, okay, that was great. It was wonderful working with you guys, but Dr. Rathbone really loved the team. He thought it was a fantastic team, and I enjoyed working with the team. And he said, okay, well, let's develop something. Let's keep Lieberman Naturals going. Now we had an issue there because we had, at that point, we were a company. They were a company that was started on from a product. Now we're a company that didn't have a product, and so we looked at it and said, okay, well, what are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? Well, we're all, science, medicine. We had neurologists, neurobiologists. Okay, let's focus on brain. What do we all like? What do we all kind of focused on? And what brought us all together was the natural product side. So we said, okay, well, let's make some natural products that are good for the brain. All right. Well, then what do you do? If what you're doing is you're just choosing natural products that are good for the brain, putting it in a capsule and putting it into selling on a shelf, okay, you're just 1 in 1,000. You're doing what everybody else does. So we want to do something very unique and different. And that's where Dr. Rathbone had a friend who was in the Philippines, from the Philippines, who had a natural product, was very heavy in the natural product market throughout Asia, and thought, okay, well, let's take a look at them and see what they're doing. And that's where, when I was looking through, there was a lot of cross between what's already sold here in the US, but something I found interesting was that they were making these functional coffees, and like a functional coffee or a functional beverage is something that would have would be a standard type of beverage, but you've added natural products into it that would be beneficial from a health point of view.
Is there a reason that coffee was chosen as the carrier outside of the fact that everybody drinks it, or was there something about the coffee itself?
Well, no, actually, coffee. The idea here was, when we looked at it, we thought that was very interesting, that it was coffee. Now, coffee, it can be there's a lot of literature, peer-reviewed literature, a lot of research from significant medical institutions also, that have shown that coffee does have a large amount of health benefits. Also will improve memory, and a variety of other things within the body. Assist with kidney. There's studies that also show improvement with liver, and just a variety of aspects. But with us, we were looking at it as we wanted to focus on picking natural products. And like I said, rather than putting it as a pill form, many people already have a whole shelf full of pills. You don't want to have a shelf full of pills. So we thought, well, why don't we then take these natural products and just put it into something somebody uses every single day, most use every single day, to make it simple. And then, okay, well, if you're looking at what do you put it in? Well, do you want to put it in, you're not going to put it in broccoli. It's because we want to make it something that's, hey, this is also something that's kind of pleasurable and enjoyable. So that's where the coffee came in. Our long-term goal is to build, a functional food and beverage company that is focused on natural products towards cognitive health. And
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Coffee's the beginning, but the other key was when we made that coffee, we actually spent about a year developing that coffee, working with a group out here on Prince Edward Island called Canada's Smartest Kitchen. And these were people that we came in with the idea that, okay, we got to choose natural products that were well known for having neuroprotective characteristics, but they also had to taste good with coffee. We didn't want to change the flavor of the coffee. So we developed that, but then as we're moving along, I'd like to develop a few more coffee formulations, but also move on to other things too, because there's a variety of natural products. Like I said earlier, like for example, rosemary. Rosemary is a natural product that is known as for improving memory. But imagine if you put rosemary in coffee, that's just not going to work. So
Exactly.
maybe we'll try
So
rosemary and chocolate.
I'm dying of curiosity here. What did you put in the coffee?
Well, what we chose was American ginseng, green tea extract, and maca root. And the American ginseng and the green tea extract, those are kind of no-brainers, excuse the pun, because they're very well known for their neuroprotective cognitive enhancement aspects. But maca root was kind of it was one of those things we had tried. We had literally tried about 40 or 50 different natural products, but many of them the taste just it altered the taste or the aroma so much that it just didn't seem right, or it didn't seem to be the appropriate kind of mixture of mixing these natural products. And ultimately then the individual in charge of the project, Canada's Smartest Kitchen, came to me and said, "Hey, you ought to look at this maca root. It is known for a variety of things within the body, but here's an article. It talks about neuroprotective characteristics, and it was actually used by the Peruvians many years ago to help for their people to help to improve memory." So I looked at it, thought it was very interesting, tried it. Now I've had maca before, and it kind of has this very earthy, but on its own, to me, and actually I've heard from most people, it's not really that enjoyable a flavor. But when we put it into the coffee, it was an amazing mixture. It just really, that earthy ground flavor, to me, is what makes
Really
this original blend really enjoyable.
Really worked. So it's the time in the program when I have to ask you, Dr. Winslow, what is your mission?
Well, it's what I'd like to do is develop initially for myself an understanding of traditional Eastern medicine, and then be able to, from that initial understanding, coordinate that with the Western understanding and develop that not really a new methodology, but an understanding of a way to combine the two, so that maybe we can bring it up to the next level.
Isn't it amazing how you bring two seemingly polar opposite things together and they can be so complementary?
Yeah, and it's just it's a very interesting task.
Well, I'm certainly glad you've taken it on because it's very much needed, I think. Yeah. So, what's the effects you found? Have you done any studies on the Beautiful Mind coffee that you developed, and how's it working?
Well, these are all anecdotal, individual. I know when, for example, I've had it. For me, it's one of the biggest aspects is it's just improved. It's made daily tasks easier. Now, those daily tasks of just sitting down reading I spend a lot of days sitting down reading journal articles now. Before I was drinking Beautiful Mind coffee, and I was just drinking regular coffee, it would make me fall asleep many times because they're very dry. But I found it much easier to get through them, and it was more a wake me up, pick me up, and I could absorb information much better. Now, one of the interesting things that I know, this really doesn't fit with the mind aspect, but a number of customers I've had have also told me that when they used to love to drink coffee, but they couldn't drink coffee anymore. They began drinking Beautiful Mind coffee because it had bothered their stomach. Now there's a stomach mind aspects associated, but this was the only coffee they were able to drink. Well, I shouldn't say there's one customer I have where this is the only coffee they drink, and they literally buy 8 bags every month from me because they love the coffee so much, and this is the only one that the wife can drink. So those are just a couple of the anecdotal
things that go along with it. Well, I'm really, really glad that you guys are in the world developing things that combine the East and the West. Unfortunately, it is about time for us to close out the show. So thank you so much for coming on, Dr. Winslow.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
It's been a real pleasure.
I've
Our
enjoyed it.
Our guest this hour has been Chief Operating Officer of Lieberman Natural Products, Dr. Winslow. Dr. Winslow's training and background is in the Western style of chemistry, pharmaceuticals, and research. His work also incorporates the Eastern styles of medicine. His website, beautifulmindcoffee.ca. This has been Mission Evolution with Gwilda Wiyaka. For more information or to enjoy past archived episodes, visit www.missionevolution.org. Please be sure to join us right here next time as this mission continues, bringing information, resources, and support to our rapidly evolving world.